welcome to this free webinar about getting a better relationship with yourself. And I'm just going to say a little bit about myself and about the webinar process before we kind of dive into the topic. And so I'm Melanie Green. Not everybody on the webinar knows me well. So I'm an occupational psychologist and I work as a coach and trainer in all different types of organisations, from kind of opera companies to engineering, manufacturing, to pharmaceutical research, to education, social care, etc. And I help people deal with two main areas. One is around communication issues in the workplace, conflict, how managers manage their staff, etc. And the other is around resilience. And this is what we're talking about today, links into the resilience area and how we manage the pressures and stresses of life. So we're going to look at what do I mean by about having a relationship with yourself, because that might not be evident for everyone. Think about the benefits to you and to other people, and how to get a better relationship. So I'm going to share a whole range of different techniques that you can do. And that when I put this together, I actually designed this webinar back in February, meant to run it in early March, and I fell ill, not with a virus, but I delayed it. And now I realise that it's even more relevant today than it was back in early March. And so in terms of what do I mean in terms about having a better relationship with yourself, I think it's a whole mixture of things. One is really understanding yourself well, understanding your personality, your values, your likes, dislikes, what helps and hinders you. And all of us are living through quite extraordinary times at the moment, is that all of us have had our lives turned upside down. And I think being able to really know what helps us when we're going through these times is important, and also what hinders us. If you're like me, I'm still working. I'm working from home. I am least used to working from home. I've got lots of clients who are really struggling to kind of adjust to it. So the more you understand, and I think also if you are at home with a partner or friends or with your children, is again understanding about those differences. Often introverts marry extroverts, is their understanding that you have different needs, and you might need some, if you're an introvert, you might need some quiet time just away from the rest of the family each day, even if it's kind of 15 minutes just for your sanity. So it's those sorts of things. I think it's also looking out for early warning signals, is that, and again, very important in these times, is that being able to spot really quickly is one, obviously, if you're feeling physically unwell, but also if you're starting to get stressed or anxious or overly anxious, so that you can take action quickly before things get out of control, and also that you can ask for support. I think it's also about thinking about your internal dialogue. I've got a copy of my book about mastering your inner critic here, is that, are you being supportive of yourself? I was talking to a friend on Friday afternoon. Now, last week was, I think, incredibly difficult for everyone. She was giving herself a really hard time. Over the last kind of 6 months, she's lost a lot of weight. And she said last week, she just ate everything. She was really giving herself a hard time. And I said, just stop doing that. Is that, you are not helping yourself. I said, learn from this and then think about how do you want to be going forward, and given the situation that we're in, and making, so I think, how we support ourselves on the inside is really important as well. And understanding what our wants, our needs are, as and being able to ask that. I've also put here is about accepting your faults, weakness, foibles, and your mistakes. And again, if you're self-isolating with other people, is being being honest. It's very easy to point the finger at other people, but actually also being honest about ourselves is important. But even if you're like myself, I've actually been self-isolating since the beginning of March because of my lung problems, and I am reliant on people shopping. So again, how I actually deal with all of this going on inside me, because I feel guilt, because I know the shops are bare and all of that sort of stuff. So I have to process that so I don't kind of put that on other people. So this is what about having a good relationship with ourselves. So it's linked to emotional intelligence. So for me, emotional intelligence is having your being self-aware, being able to manage yourself and your emotions and your thoughts, your interpersonal skills and your empathy. And I have a quote here from Sark, who says, "However I try to control others, it was minuscule compared to how I tried to control myself. My inner critics were and are ruthless, and there is almost no acceptance of accidents, mistakes, or missteps. This way of living is exhausting, and I'm learning how to detach from my superegos and inner critics." And I think that is so important. That, you know, that we have positive self-talk rather than that inner critic. And I'm going to talk more about that later on when I start talking about some of the techniques. So in terms of the benefits of a good relationship with yourself, is the first thing is about reducing your emotional temperature. And for about the last year, I've been carrying around this. Now, I know some people are phoning in, so I'm holding up an old-fashioned room thermometer. And I get this out on my courses and when I'm coaching people to talk about people's emotional energy. Because if you're already at kind of 100 degrees Fahrenheit in terms of your emotional energy, if something happens, then you're going to fly off the handle, or you're going to tip over into great anxiety or whatever else it might be. Whereas actually, if you're managing yourself and your moods on an ongoing basis, and you've got a low emotional temperature, if something happens, you have a little blip, but you can come back down again. I think also, and very important into today's environment, is about improved resilience. Is that resilience doesn't mean that you don't sometimes wobble, and I'll be sharing some of my wobbles over the last week with you as we go through this. But it's how we right ourselves, how we look after ourselves. I think it's also how do you respond versus react. So do we just knee-jerk reaction to events, or do we count 5 seconds before we respond? And I had a great example of this last Friday. Friday was a very emotional day, and my 85-year-old mum, she's in South London, I'm here in Oxfordshire. I've had strict instructions from my doctors, I must not go to her, which is incredibly hard. I haven't seen her since early January because of my health. And loads of people doing shopping for her, and they'd shopped for her Friday morning, and she leaves a message for me going, I just popped down to Waitrose, and I got a nice bit of trout and had a lovely lunch. And I kind of thought, oh my God, can't believe she's just done this. And so I had time to, rather than react, was to calmly then ring her up and kind of just very calmly have a talk with her, which she wasn't happy about. But she rang me back later very contrite and recognising the kind of that it wasn't a wise thing to do. So that's the responding rather than reacting. Being honest with yourself and honest with other people. So the better you have a relationship and you're not beating yourself up, the more honest I think we can be. Definitely improving our communication and our relationships with others. I think it's really hard to have a good relationship with others if we don't have a good relationship with ourselves. And lastly, increased joy, gratitude and fulfillment in life is that even amongst all of this, and as I said, I've been inside other than the odd walk out outside locally, is that I've really started to savour things like the daffodils in my garden. I'm so appreciating them compared to if I was out and about, I would probably not even notice them if it wasn't under normal circumstances. And I find I'm enjoying food more because I'm really appreciating that I might not be able to get this sort of food again, or not for some time. So it can really help you in so many different ways. So let's look at, first of all, we're going to look at different techniques, and they're all going to do these three things, which is about increasing your awareness of your own thoughts, your beliefs and your moods and your emotions. Also, it's ensuring that your internal dialogue is positive, constructive and motivating. Really being kind to yourself, and know how to process and transform negative emotions, so that you can work through them, because it's inevitable. We're all on a roller coaster at the moment, and it's not going to stop anytime soon. So actually how we can process things is so important. So let's go to some thoughts about techniques, and I've separated it out into morning check-in, during the day, and then at the end of the day. I think is taking your kind of emotional temperature, checking in with yourself. I have this mood map. I've got an example here, and I can email it to people when this video is edited and I send it around. But it's to use the mood map, and feel free to share these with partners or children, etc. And you can use the techniques together. But to use the mood map to check in with yourself. And I get clients to in their journal, to identify 5 or 6 moods that they're feeling in the morning, and for any negative moods to write out what are the thoughts or the beliefs behind those moods, because then you can start to kind of get at processing them. And so I meant to have my journal. I realise it's still in my in my bedroom after last night. A lot of journaling. But writing in your journal, I'm going to give you some more kind of techniques you can use. If you've not come across Julia Cameron's morning pages, she talks about, it's a bit, I feel it's a kind of a bit extreme, but she talks about actually writing 3 A4 size pieces of paper in the morning before you even get out of bed. But I think there is something about also just free writing sometimes, rather than doing kind of particular exercises. Oops, sorry, I've just realised I forgot to unplug the phone in case somebody rings in the middle of it. And I think, all of this is about becoming more mindful of your thoughts and your feelings. And it's, back to this emotional thermometer. It's knowing where you are in terms of your emotions, and stopping them from escalating. So in some way, checking in with yourself in the morning and thinking about that. And I think that for those of you who, if you're working from home and you're not used to that, is getting into a different type of morning routine, and whether that's involving exercise as well as some of these kind of techniques. Then during the day, I think it is really important to check in with yourself. And when I'm coaching clients, I often have clients who kind of go, I'm fine in the morning, but then, my energy and my motivation starts to dip down. And that's partly because they're just slogging away. They're not actually checking in with themselves and not taking a break. And I was coaching a client, now all my coaching is online, yesterday morning, and she said, I was used to get to work for 7:30 but leave at 5. And she said, I'm getting to work, she's very conscientious, at 7:30 in the morning, but working till about 6:30, and then answering some emails in the evening, because I kind of feel I should do. And she said, I'm not really taking a break. And so it's, getting into the habit of having a lunch break, having a tea break. If you were in the office, you'd be chatting to different people at different times. You'll be walking between meetings. At the moment, we're still allowed that 1 walk a day. So make sure you timetable that in. We may not get that 1 walk a day in the future. We might end up like Italy and not be able to go outside. So I'm kind of, make the most of it. So after this webinar, before another coaching session later on, I'm off out for my walk. Set yourself reminders. So I use my phone a lot in terms of reminders to actually do different things if you're the sort of person who kind of goes head down. And then at the end of the day, I think, now I wrote this, I obviously put it together, I know I could have edited it, but I put here about being mindful on the way home. And why I've left that in is I was talking to, I belong to a women's group, and we went online yesterday. And one of the people who is used to working in a very corporate organisation said, I'm now working from her downstairs is kitchen, lounge, kind of dining room all together, and now her office. And she said, I've got no kind of demarcation between kind of work and not work, no work, and stopping work. And I think is to be really mindful about how you stop work if you are working. And that might be, that's when you go and do your your walk as we're getting lighter evenings. It might be that if you have a garden, you just go out in the garden for a bit, that you pack away your stuff. So that is kind of mentally, you close your, turn off your email so that, it's finished for the day. Again, checking in with yourself. I also think about debriefing in a very balanced way. You might not do this on a daily basis, but maybe on a weekly basis. And I have an 8-week online course called Being and Doing that some people here on this have been on. And every Friday, there is a different technique that I share with people to help them to learn from the week that they've just had. Because it's very easy if we get to Friday and we're very tired to start to think, oh, well, I haven't done this, or I haven't achieved that, or oh, it was awful, I had a row with this person, or whatever else happened. So being able to debrief in a really constructive way is important. Now, the 5Gs is, you could actually do it any time. You don't have to do it at the end of the day. And it was a technique that somebody on one of my courses in November shared to the group, and I said, that's brilliant. I said, can I share that with my clients? And she said, well, it's not mine, somebody gave it to me. So I've used it ad hoc, but now I'm using it every day, and it, to keep me on the straight and narrow. So I do mine in the morning. You can do it anytime. So the 5Gs are writing down 5 good things. So it's a bit like your gratitudes. So 5 good things. So it might be you slept well, or the sun is shining. It could be that, somebody has offered to help you. One of my regular goods are my beautiful daffodils in the garden that really kind of kept me going through March. So your 5 goods, if you've got more than 5, write 5, and you can repeat as you go through each day. Then your 5 glitches. So things that haven't gone so well. It might be actually, basically, I have 4 hours sleep last night, and various health things and other things. Is that so? It might be that actually went to the supermarket and there's absolutely nothing, or that you're again eating the same old dish, whatever it might be, or that grumbling at the government and why haven't they done this and that. Whatever it is, it's really important. That's your opportunity to be honest. If you haven't got 5, that's fine. If you've got more than 5, then write it out, get it out on paper. It's really important to do that. And then the 3rd G is your goals for the next 24 hours. And those are, look at being and doing. So you might have some task goals, but also how do you want to be for the next 24 hours? And I have found this really, really useful, this exercise, to kind of focus my mind. This is how I want to be in the here and now. And certainly for me, when my mind kind of runs away, I did a little spontaneous video on Monday that some of you might have seen, is that if my mind starts running away with myself, is that I kind of come really into the here and now and go, you're safe now. You're absolutely fine. Because I've got various lung conditions. Obviously, if I caught this virus, it would be very serious. So I start to worry. Last night was about worrying about my brother, who's busy doing shopping for everybody else. And what if he gets ill? What if this happens? What if that? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so very powerful, simple exercise. I wanted to share a couple of other things. I'm keeping an eye on the time, and then I will kind of open it up for some questions. Some other things that you may kind of consider, other techniques, is one is about focusing on your sphere of influence. And this is based on Stephen Covey's circle of influence and concern from his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's very easy to focus on all the things that concern us, impact on us, but we have no control over. So it's going to what can you directly influence, and that starts with here. So it starts with your thoughts, starts with your beliefs that then affect your feeling and then how you behave. So focus on your circle of influence is really important. And sometimes I draw 2 circles to remind myself about all the things out of my control of what I can influence. About listening to your whole self rather than just that inner critic. So you may have an inner critic that's berating you, but there will be other voices. So you may have a fearful child that has a lot of what ifs. So I often recommend writing down all your fearful child's what ifs. Write them all down and then step into your kind of wise adult self, and actually, how can you address those? How can you reassure your inner fearful child? Mine's called Franny. I've been doing these exercises for years, and it was about a year ago I thought, I'm going to name her. She's called Franny, fearful Franny. But also there are other bits of you. So you might have a rebellious child. So I'm sure part of my mum on Friday was her rebellious child. She has a very strong rebellious child as an 85-year-old. It was her rebellious child. That's it. I'm going down to Waitrose. So, you know, we could end up doing things that jeopardize us and our loved ones if we don't actually listen to ourselves and listen to that rebellious child and work through it. Or maybe we've got a sulky child that we need to listen to. So there's a whole exercise in my book, but I can also send you a handout as well based on that. I think also about appreciating yourself and appreciating what you do rather than you don't do. And it appears to me, listening to both clients and friends, that everyone has a very long list of things they're going to do over the next however many weeks they might have to stay in their houses with very short walks out. And I think set yourself up for success. Start small. It was funny, I overlook my street. I'm just very suburban street, and I've been amused by one of my neighbours who yesterday he cleaned all of the cars associated with the house. Today he was cleaning out the outside cupboard, and I was kind of thinking, oh, I think you're going a bit early there, you know, you won't have anything left to do. So anyway, so I think really appreciating yourself. Another exercise I have is about getting people to write down 10 things they appreciate about themselves. And the final exercise, which is a lovely exercise that comes from NLP and Gestalt therapy, is in my book as well. It's about stepping into your mental shoes. If you have an issue that you're grappling with, it might be, oh, I'm going to kill my partner or my two teenage children, or I'm going mad here, how do I help? Is you think of 3 people who could be your virtual mentors. Is they can be people you don't know. So I have people like, Maya Angelou is sometimes one of my mentors, Sark, who is on the thing. It could be somebody who is dead. So sometimes my dad is my mentor in this exercise. It could be that it's a fictional hero. Maybe you are, into Lord of the Rings or something, and you have Gandalf as your mentor. And what you do is you actually position yourself, and you are standing and you have your 3 mentors, and you pose your question like, I'm going stir crazy, I don't know how to cope, and you step into their shoes. So maybe you I step into Maya Angelou's shoes, and then you turn around and you look back at yourself. And from Maya Angelou's point of view and her shoes, you give some words of advice. And then you go back to your shoes, take on board her advice. And then you go and you walk and you step into the next mentor's shoes. They give you some words of advice. And then you go back into your own shoes, take that on board, and then you do it with the 3rd mentor. It is an incredibly powerful exercise. So I would really recommend that. Just a lovely exercise to do. So there's a range I'm keeping an eye on the time, and there's a range of different kind of exercises that I've kind of introduced you to, I just wanted to, I'm going to kind of summarize and kind of give you a few other kind of thoughts. But this quote from Oprah Winfrey, which is very, very relevant, I think, to today, is nothing is more effective than a deep, slow inhale and release for surrendering what you can't control and focusing again on what is right in front of you. So I think, that coming into the here and now. I was also looking at the kind of photo that I'd chosen kind of a month ago. I think, I'm putting up on my my house kind of lovely photos and things like that, so that I can escape to the beach or something without leaving my home. So in summary is, think about the benefits. It's worth spending some time doing some of these exercises, because there's huge benefits to yourself and also to the people around you. Increasing your awareness of your thoughts, your feelings and your needs, and then using some of the techniques to process, and particularly the things about listening to the different parts of yourself and your what ifs, etc., to really process what's going on for you. Think about the morning check-in, being mindful during the day and also ending the day in a kind of constructive way. Please feel free to share these ideas with other people if they're going to benefit. Once the video is edited, I'll send it to you. It takes a couple of days, and then share that. Feel free to share that. Also, if you want more support, I have got this 8-week online course. There is a cohort that's starting in April, but actually I am going to allow people to start now, and we're going to find it. We've got a delivery device that will help us. And there's a different theme each week, and you get input on the Monday. You get 2 videos and a workbook, and then you get some inspiration on the Wednesdays, and then on the Fantastic Fridays you get this technique, a different technique each week, to learn how to review the week. You have lifetime access to it, and I'm doing a 50% reduction on the price given the circumstances. Obviously I need to earn some income myself, but it's and you can share it, share it with your family, if or your partner. Work through it together. So instead of £99 including VAT, it's £49 including VAT. I also offer free coaching audits for individuals and for managers. And if you're not already registered with my website, which is inspiretransformation.co.uk, then do that, so that you can receive Melanie's Monday motivational messages. I also have my Inspire coaching newsletter that goes out monthly, and I'm going to be doing more of these webinars. And I think my next one is going to be about actually how do you communicate when we're under these difficult situations. So I think I'm probably going to do that in about 2 weeks' time. And if you think you are registered, and we've had a few troubles with our database, as some of you might be aware, if you think you've registered but you didn't receive this Monday motivational message, then go to the website and register again, in case you've dropped off the mailing list. So it's past. I've kind of rattled through. So I'm going to finish it there. And just kind of thank you for attending. And then if anybody has any questions, please do write any questions in the chat box, and I will stay around for another 10 minutes or so, or however long is needed. But if you all go, I'll go as well. I'll go for my walk. So please be wise, please go safely, and hopefully see you on another webinar.